everybody. Thanks for watching again. So today this is going to be a video on installing some coilovers on our 2006 987 Cayman S. This is a car that we've had for a few years now. It's my girlfriend's daily driver. It's an absolutely fantastic car. But it's getting to the point where it's going to need some new shocks. And so rather than just buy new OEM shocks, we decided to go with a set of coilovers. And so after doing some research, I found these ST coilovers, which I think for the money are pretty much about the best setup you can get. I think we ended up paying $12.50, something like that. You know, price-wise, not too bad. And from the reviews that I've been, reading and checking out, they are good quality shocks. They're ST brand shocks, but they're made by KW, and so they're made in Germany. We actually had to wait for a while to get them. They were on back order, which is a good thing, because that tells you that they're popular and they're selling well. So the ST is owned by KW, and if you know KW, they make some of the best coilovers in the world. I mean, they do really good stuff, a lot of racing applications, and so basically KW owns ST, so ST is their line of kind of budget coilovers, and they're made in Germany, like I was saying, and they're made at the KW factory, so good quality stuff. I mean, these are basically KW variant 1 coilovers, so they're adjustable for height, but not adjustable for rebound and compression, which is fine for us. It's just a street application. Yeah, so I'm going to get to it and get these installed. So at the top here, in order to get to the upper strut bolts, you have to remove these two panels here, and they just pop right out. I'm not actually going to remove these yet, but there's 3 bolts here. They look like 13s, and these are what hold in the upper strut mount. So first thing to do is to remove the brake caliper, which is held on with a T55 star bit. So if you don't have that, you'll need that to remove the caliper bolts. So the 2 caliper bolts are right here in the back. You need something to support the caliper on, so the brake line isn't just hanging there with the weight of the caliper on it. I'm going to try to pry it off with this screwdriver here without scratching the paint on the caliper. Okay, so the other thing you have to do, so once you get the caliper bolts off, there's a small 10mm bolt right here that holds this bracket for the brake line to the knuckle, the steering knuckle, or the suspension knuckle right here, so that needs to be removed. Next thing has to be done, the rotor has to be removed, which are 2 small set screws right here, and those are removed with a screwdriver. I did soak these in PB Blaster. I might want to do that. I did that like a few days ago. Next thing that needs to come off is the dust shield. And I don't know if this absolutely has to come off. I think it's easier if it's off. And then I can clean it and put it back on. This is the wheel speed sensor, I believe is what it is. So you pop this clip up, just unplugs very easily, like that, boom. This can stay here, and then I'm going to remove this bracket here. Okay. On the back of this sensor right here, it clips in to a you can see right there, clips into it has a rubber grommet that slides into a clip on the back of the strut right here, or it's part of the strut. Okay, so that's done. Now we need to remove the sway bar link, and we need to disconnect the tie rod bolt right here so the tie rod can drop down. Then we need to take off this forward arm. I'm trying to remember, I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically a suspension arm that bolts to the lower control arm, and it goes forward up here. The bolt that holds it to the control arm will need to be removed, and will just slide away and allow the whole assembly to be rotated out so that we can get the shock out of the wheel arch. 18mm nut. Pop down. I put the nut back on it. Alright, so the sway bar link, the drop link, is held on with an 18, so I'm using a pretty big breaker bar here. And the other thing you need to do is you have to use a skinny 18mm wrench on the other side of it to keep it, otherwise it'll just spin. But there's a like a bolt-shaped kind of fitting on the other side of the link that you need to hold, and you cannot fit a regular wrench like this. 18mm won't fit down in there because of all this stuff in the way, and there's just the link itself is in the way. So this comes out very easily. You just pull it out and it slides out the back. So we're getting there. The only thing left to do now is to take off the bolts that are for this arm. I cannot remember what it's called, but it's the arm that goes from the lower control arm and to the front of the car. Okay, so the bolt that holds this arm on is a 21mm on top, and the bottom is another 18mm right here. So I used my breaker bar to just crack open the lower one with the 18. It was pretty easy. This thing just pulls out, basically. So, okay, so at this point we can move to the top of the car, and so these are the nuts that'll be removed with they're 13mm all around. So the problem is now is getting spring low enough to pull it out. So what you have to do is you have to use spring compressor. So I'm going to compress the spring. Okay, so this is my absolute least favorite part of this job. It just seems sketchy. It seemed like a sketchy way to do it, but it's you know, it worked. The strut is compressed enough. You have to compress it quite a bit to get it to clear the fender. One last thing I forgot about. So there's a collar that holds it kind of compresses it against the shock body. So that, and you can see now the shock is loose. I forgot to remove that. So with any luck, this will pull up and out. That's it. So that's the old assembly out of the car. So now the next step. This needs to be transferred over to the new coilovers. We're not going to be using the old collar. We'll just slide in the new coilover right here. The sway bar link actually is also a factor in tightening the knuckle here. When you put that sway bar link through here and tighten it down, it clamps the knuckle around the bottom of the shock to hold it in place. So once you have the spring compressed, I always stand with the spring on the floor with it facing away from me. So this is the old hardware. This is the top hat here that we'll be reusing. There was a washer that went here. There's a new one that comes with the coilover. This is a small washer that was on the strut, the stock strut. I'm going to put it back on the coilover as well. So, spring pad. And this pops into here, like that. And then this snugs down into the top of the spring. So I got the coilover in. I had to press down pretty hard on the assembly to get it to clear the fender. This is probably one of those jobs where if you had somebody helping you, it would be better, because two people pushing and one person kind of guiding it past the fender so you don't damage it. So definitely use the tape for sure. So other than that, it's in. So at this point, assembly is just the reverse removal. So I'll just be putting the sway bar link back in, and then connecting all the the tie rod, that lower arm that goes forward, and put the caliper back on. All right, so I got both sides of the front done. Coilovers are in. It's not too bad of a job. It's pretty straightforward. Everything bolts together very logically, and there's really not that much stuff to disconnect. Getting the coilover in past the fender is definitely a challenging part. Next up is going to be the rear, and then a review of how these shocks handle. So we will see you guys in the next video.